Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm from Liceo Lastarria, and I'm here to talk about how imagination is more important than knowledge. After many years of planning and frustration, the first man was able to set foot on the moon in 1969. Prior to this magnificent feat, however, there was an extraordinary man that imagined a method of transportation that could accomplish lunar exploration. The gentleman who I'm referring to is the writer Jules Verne. One can ask, how exactly was Mr. Verne able to imagine a method so far ahead of his time? Perhaps he had a dream, or maybe it was just a spark of inspiration. We can speculate more, but the point is that he was able to wow the readers, and more importantly, to inspire so many others, including scientists, after publishing his ideas on his novel From the Earth to the Moon. Having said this, I want to ask something. How useful do you think his idea was as a contribution for knowledge and learning? But before to answer, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this topic. Humans have the need to create, discover, and learn. But how do we do that? When we attempt to acquire new knowledge, we're usually inhibited by the rational thinking and the limited information we already have. This is what prevents us of letting go the conventions of the time. It is traditional STEM education that has established too many boundaries for our minds. The reason for this is that the academic formation we receive beginning when we're young shapes our minds identically. The absence of diversity and critical thinking tend to make us believe there is only one answer for a question, which I think is wrong. This is why we're constantly learning math formula and other pre-established facts that we never even think about challenging. This social paradigm is unfortunate because it measures the intelligence of a person through standardized testing, giving more emphasis in knowledge versus creativity. So here's where I begin to wonder. Is there any room for imagination in our learning based on what I just said? Well, even Albert Einstein, one of the most transcendental scientists in history, said, and I quote, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to what we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand." It is now really important that I define what imagination means. Imagination is a mind process that generates original thoughts, providing an alternative to the expected or the conventional, if you will. Imagine activity is a form of mental play, directed towards some creative purpose, which is to expand the possibilities of a given situation. Now, I would like to ask you a question based on a Stephen Hawking theory, in order to demonstrate how weak our imagination capacity really is. This is just in case you thought it was easy to imagine anything. Well, Hawking theory says there are some points in the universe that produce an extremely huge quantity of gravity that even time disappears entirely. Well, can you imagine anything with no time? Considering that while you were thinking about it, a couple of seconds just passed by? I bet none of you could. It is fine, however, because I could not either. This is why I call my speech, "Let's imagine what we can't imagine." I consider that a huge part of learning is to realize the things we don't know and understand, because that's where the creative process begins. Now, before to conclude, I would like to answer the question I posed at the beginning. I strongly believe that we can consider Jules Verne's idea to help us understand how efficient learning might be if we could escape the jail of reality. Furthermore, we can say that a creative process with a lack of imagination can only work, as Einstein said, with what is already known and understood. Finally, I conclude that our lack in our imagination is evident, and this limits our creative capacity. We have to fix this by encouraging our minds to be free and to think whatever it wants, because that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's the road to the learning of the future. Thank you very much.